everybody, so part 2 of some more domestic violence. So I'll tell you a story. So this was in 2009. I had packed up my things and was trying to get away. I think my children were at school, and my husband rushed home and chased me. I wasn't able to get out quick enough, and began to be a chase through the neighborhood. He was in his car and I was in our minivan. And finally I pulled into a church parking lot, and he's promised not to hurt me, you know, of course, always. So they always say. And then he took my keys and he broke my phone. He took the battery out of the phone, smashed the back of it, and then drove off, and it was really hot. And then, of course, he yelled at me and did all kinds of lovely things that way, but then he drove off. But I had a second set of keys in the car with my bags, and so I grabbed those after I thought that he was gone. I pulled the car around, but he was waiting just up the street a little bit to see if I would see what would happen. And when I started out of the church parking lot, he came back and tried to block me, but I was able to get out. And actually, he had blocked me before and was blocking the road, but the car was honking, so that's why we ended up in the church. But anyway, so he started following me again down the road in the neighborhood. So if anybody asks why, like, you shouldn't bother people that are fighting, like, this affects everyone, because he's chasing me down your streets where your kids play, just FYI. And so I had the idea I need to get to the police station, which wasn't very far from our house. So I'm not like going crazy fast, but I am going faster probably than the speed limit. And so I finally I turned onto a main road off of these were residential streets, just homes, and got behind like a moving truck type, and I did that so that he was trying to run me off the road all that time. He was chasing me and kept trying to speed up and get me to run me off the road, and he knew that I would stop so that the cars wouldn't bang into each other. So that's why I was having to go fast. And then I got behind that truck so that he couldn't do that, and I was just riding. I was like right on this truck's bumper, and then finally got to the police station, and I pulled into the police station and parked and ran in, and I was hysterical. And they finally sent somebody out, a policeman, and my husband followed me in. And I told the policeman what was happening, and of course my husband was always a good liar. Like, he always played the victim and said, and I said, well, he took my phone, he's harassing me, I'm trying to leave, he's chasing me, won't let me. He'd deny it, or he'd turn it around. And so finally they found the evidence of part of my phone in his car, and that was the only reason that they believed me. So then they decided, this was so brilliant of them, this is what you get with a lot of policemen, and even if they've been trained. And these policemen had a chief that wanted to help domestic violence victims, and they even had like an advocate. That's what I don't get about it. But they took him to the hospital. And the doctor asked him, do you know why you're here? And he said, no. I don't need to be here. I know this because he told me. And when they finished, they'd make a total mockery of it. And he was charged with, like, of course, they dumbed down the charges from, like, he was never charged with chasing me down the street, trying to run me off the road. There's never any of those charges. He was very reckless. Like, he could have killed somebody, could have killed me. None of that is seen. He's seen as someone that loves too much, right? That's what we hear in the movies and in plays. They that do not show their love do not love. Shakespeare. No, they think that he's mentally ill. And I'll tell you, if you're mentally ill, then you cannot control it around the police. Trust me, he controls it, and he plays so well around the police that no one believes that he has a problem. And that is typical of domestic violence. So, and it makes me crazy that the police don't understand it. Social workers don't understand it. How can social workers be social workers and they don't understand abuse? What do we have need of them for? We don't need social workers if they don't understand abuse. I'm just saying. So then I wanted to tell you about well, there's so much, and I just wrote down a few things. I wanted to jot down some things. He would pretend that when I finally left, that night I left, he pretended to have a heart attack. But it wasn't for me. Well, he was trying to get me to come back, but I was so terrified that it would be a replay of the last time, the last 2-3 times actually, that I fled really fast. And so that he couldn't, so what he would do, they call in the car stolen. They cancel your credit cards, and he canceled my credit cards, and he withdrew all the cash that was in the bank. I had my own bank account, but then in my effort to try and patch things up and show my trust, I put him on the bank account. So he promptly withdrew all the money and closed all of the bank accounts. And then, but it did take him a few days because he called the police when I finally got somewhere, and I got myself into a motel, and he knew exactly where that was because of the credit card. So then he called the police and told them that I was not right in the head. So then I had to go to the hospital. So then anyway, that led one thing to another. But so they always seem to win though. So I don't know. And other guys that I have dated, that because I always date the abusers. I'm telling you, like, I quit dating. They blame you all the time. Like, you just walked in the door, like, you just started dating this person. And it's your fault. Or I had one guy, he would blame me. I would ask him about something, and he would say, well, now I feel that way because you asked me about it. And I'd be like, what? What are you talking about? The water torturer is really calm, and they will blame you. Like, they'll say, well, you're getting angry. You're the abusive one. And my ex-husband, that was his favorite thing. He would say that he was abused. So they love to point the finger and make themselves the victim. And when we went to therapy, he used to tell the therapist all the time that he was abused. He would tell everybody that he was abused. Everybody at church believed he was abused. And they all took him dinner for like 3 months. They felt so sorry for him. And I'm sorry to laugh at all of you, but none of you did your due diligence. I don't know what to say, but you all let me leave. And my children lost their mother. Like, I don't know. And so, like, mental illness makes things more violent. If this person has a legitimate mental illness, they have the potential to be more violent. Doesn't mean that they necessarily will. But some mental illness can cause that. So but the point is that I would bring that up is that a lot of times with domestic violence, people say, well, they act crazy. I think the evil just looks crazy because it doesn't make any sense. Like, why do you behave that way? Just allow it. Leave it alone. Like, leave them alone. You can't force people to love you, but they just can't. They have to control people. So it looks insane, but it's really insulting to people that have a legitimate mental illness to call people that are controlling and manipulative and abusive and angry and to say that they have a mental illness. It is insulting. They have a problem, but it's not a mental illness. And the way you can really tell is that they can control it when certain people come around. Like, if the police come around, boy, it's like a switch. Trust me. Seen it. And sometimes it can be really hard because when I've seen other women that act up, especially if they have been abused for long periods of time, they can be really bad. They abuse themselves in really bad ways, and so it can be really hard to tell who's saying whose story to believe. So I met a drug addict, and I didn't know who to believe, the woman or the man. The woman was a really bad drug addict, but she was definitely abused, but not making good choices for sure. But so I wanted to bring up when this policeman came over to my house, it was like a light bulb moment. And the policeman said to my oldest son, he had this giant hunting knife, but he was being extremely disrespectful to me. And the policeman was hearing all this, and he said, "Why are you behaving like that? Why are you being so disrespectful to your mother?" And it's like, I needed to hear that. My husband never said those kinds of things to our children. He would not defend me. In fact, he would incite riots in our house and incite anger and cause our children to fight with each other and against me. So it was like, you know, having an angel walk in the house, like. And not all policemen are angels, because my dad was one and he was abusive. But I love my dad. I love you, Dad, but you're not a perfect man. So, and then I want to talk about pregnancy. A lot of times abusive men will get women pregnant to control them. That's one of the ways they do it. And they will make you get abortions as well. I've had both experiences. So, and then the other, I have not had an abortion though. Although I think I didn't want to mention it, but I won't mention it. I am going through some things right now that I have mentioned in another video, and it's all related. I just can't seem to escape some of these men and the consequences of meeting them. So my ex-husband also used to say all the time to me that I needed to change. And so I was all the time changing my hair color and dressing as pretty and sexy as I could, wearing high heels. So now when I see women like that, I just feel sorry for them. And my goal always is just to get the gray out. And now I wear tennis shoes all the time. I loved wearing boots in the army and having a hat. I hated being pretty. Like, I'm tired of that. That's not good for anyone. So, and then, what else? I wanted to, use of medication. So, like, I would have really bad nightmares all the time. This is going to shut off. So I would take a lot of medication like antidepressants and Xanax to help mitigate these nightmares, but they stopped once I divorced.